So this is for the public, and we are going to start with a limit of 3 minutes per speaker, 3 to 5 minutes in that general area. So anybody have any comments, public comments at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm so techie.
I'm Bobby Gore with Park County Senior Coalition, and the public comment would be referencing the TRS decisions. And first, I would like to start with, I know that the TRS had short turnaround time and a lot of material to cover, and I thank you for your investment of time. In addition to that, I would like to ask that the TRS and the members of the RAC consider whether in your heart you believe this is the best decision for the seniors in your region. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Any other public comments?
Oh, okay. Got it? I just want to give a quick update. End of December, Invita began its partnership with MCSS up in Monument. So we are now helping them in terms of delivering rides for seniors in Monument and between Colorado Springs and Monument. So that's been going on now for close to a month. And then as of January 31st, we begin our new route out on Highway 94 to Ellicott, Yoder, and all the way to Rush. And so that is in today's Ranchland News. That announcement is out. We're already getting calls from people in that area, so excited that we're coming. And so just wanted you to be aware of where some of the support from this body goes. We're very excited to help the folks in eastern El Paso County and the folks in northern El Paso County. Thank you very much.
Just a comment. I'd just like to say, Dave, why don't you get busy and do something?
Did you start on 94?
January 31st, we start. Friday,
Okay,
January
'cause
31st.
I had somebody that said they had called you, and you never responded back off of 94.
I'm not sure who that would be. I have not had a phone message I have not returned.
Huh. Well, that's what I was told. So
Okay.
it was during the senior, which you were there, the luncheon.
Yeah, I have had no messages that I have not returned.
The lady that was bugging you.
Okay. If you want to get me her information, I'd be happy to give her a call.
Okay, I'll have to get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other public comments? All right, great. Moving on to information items. We have no provider presentations today because that's the way it's scheduled. Sorry. We will have our provider fair next month during our, after our little meeting. We will start our community presentations, and we start with Silver Keys Choose Home. We have 15 minutes for that. You want to come up
Melissa, I
there?
have a question. Is that automatically advancing?
No. Oh, yes, it is. I'll probably have to come up there because I can see.
Can you take it off of the automatic looping? Probably set up show. Set up slideshow setups over here, right there. We click off. No, go to presented by speaker at full screen, shut tabs. There you go, manually, and that side. And there you go, and I'm sorry, that's my fault. And thank you very much. And let's just go back to from the beginning. Hopefully it will work. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roxanne Eflin. I'm the Grants and Special Projects Manager at Silver Key, and I'm also the project director on a brand new program that we've got that I'm excited to discuss with you today. I have flyers also about the program and some rack cards that I will share. This is called VETS. It's Veterans Engagement Together Support, and it's a brand new companionship program that we're developing at Silver Key. We were invited by the Senior Corps through the Corporation for National Community Service in partnership with the Veterans Administration to participate in a nationwide pilot program of 5 communities to provide volunteer support for senior veterans. They came to us with a grant opportunity, and we jumped on it about a year ago. It's a 3-year program with Pittsburgh, San Antonio, Las Vegas, and some counties in eastern Montana. They selected these communities for obvious reasons because of the the veteran population, and of course Colorado Springs has over 101,000 veterans in need of support. And because of our legacy in 50 years of working with volunteers and our veteran community, they thought we would be a good choice, and we were happy to participate. So this is a no-cost companion program for veterans over the age of 60, involving volunteers over the age of 55. It is all volunteer-based, and our new program at Silver Key, our VIP program, our Volunteer Impact Program, has been ramping up around this to really engage more volunteers, to provide better and more intense training for volunteers. We're very excited about this program because we're engaging seniors. Our average age of our volunteers is 64, and they're finding new purpose and new interest in being engaged not only with Silver Key, but throughout the community, and especially with the veteran community as well. So we're looking for volunteers and for veterans in need of companionship. We have a crisis in this country with social isolation of seniors, and especially poignant with the veteran community, and also, of course, suicide prevention. So that's really the true focus for this, is to look at how to really engage more of a community at a broad-based level to really help provide basic companionship. Now, this program provides a small hourly stipend for all the volunteer. Absolutely. Sure. Thank you. It provides a small hourly stipend. The minimum requirement for volunteering is 5 hours a week. We have a memorandum of agreement with the Veterans Clinic up at the top of the hill at Centennial. They are providing us superb training for all of our volunteers. We have an advisory council that is comprised of, right now, of 6 members, including Scott Bartlett here. Thank you very much. The Peak Care Military Network, which is now, I don't know if you know this, and they've merged with the Homefront Cares and the Independence Center. And Mount Carmel, of course. We have a pairing program, so the volunteers are matched with a veteran in particular need and a relationship building. So the companion program really begins to develop in a great way, and friendships develop. A work plan is developed so that everyone is on the same page as to exactly what services will be provided. And we are right now in the process of hiring a veteran coordinator. This is a temporary position that is grant funded to assist us in stitching together the volunteer component with the senior companion component. And I'm very excited about that. So if you know of anyone at all who's interested in working with us on this national pilot in a very key way in a temporary basis, we'd love to speak with them. So basic companionship is to alleviate loneliness, to provide transportation assistance and daily needs, to go on walks and visits and movies and lunch and things. This is not about home care. We're not shoveling walks and mowing lawns. And this is not about medical care. It is pure companionship. So it has a great deal of interest, I think, for volunteers across the spectrum. And there's a great need for that. Veterans especially are sometimes lonely and sometimes very homebound, and really just need somebody to just help them get out the door. We also hear often that their provider, their care provider, specifically a spouse, is very excited about this program. As you can well imagine, those are the people in the back of the room waving, "Yes, we love hearing about this." So we're very excited about how this is all going to play out and how the program over 3 years with the other 4 communities will begin to develop a model of companionship support for veterans. We need a lot of volunteers. We're looking for at least 50 to get engaged with this. So if you know of anyone at all who's interested, the only requirement is that they be over 55. They just are committed to training. They are committed to doing a background check. Of course, all of our volunteers go through background checks. This is one step up with fingerprinting and committing to a minimum hour per week. The benefit, of course, for the volunteers is substantial, and we know that through many years of working with volunteers in all of our program areas. So pride and purpose, we think, special recognition as one of our senior corps volunteer with our VIP program, and we're very pleased about this. We have recently, by the way, revised our mission and our vision statement here for you to look at, really keying in on exactly what it is that Silver Key provides to the overall community. And, of course, our core programs, which you are well aware and growing on a regular basis. If you have not been to our campus, we invite you. We love to do tours. And if you have not visited our thrift store, you have missed out. We have an incredible thrift store. And you can see our food pantry at work as well. So you're invited anytime. Just give us a call. This is how you connect with me. And to learn more, just call our Silver Line, One-Stop Shopping, at 884-2300. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, I'd just like to support what you were just saying about the value of coming and seeing Silver Key and touring the facility. I'm sorry. So I just thought I'd endorse the suggestion for members to come and visit the Silver Key facility and the programs that they support. It really is important. Specifically on this one, a couple of questions was, are you trying to recruit 50 volunteers on a geographic basis? And is the 5-hour commitment, is that for the 3 years? Is that for 1 year at a time with renewable? How do you break those rules, those types of things? So it's a little bit more on the process procedures of where you're going.
El Paso County wide, we will be matching up geography to veterans where they live. We are not bound to just Colorado Springs, so El Paso County. The 5-hour commitment is for all active volunteers a week. So a minimum of 5 hours a week that they would be committing to provide volunteer services for companionship.
52 weeks out of the year.
That's correct. However long they want to be active. And this is purely up to them. We have people who say, we're here 6 months a year and we're elsewhere the rest of the time. Or I can only provide volunteer services 1 week a month. That's fine. We will work with anybody with any schedule. The requirement through the Senior Corps grant, and the Senior Corps program actually is very interesting. It's been around since the Johnson administration. So you've heard of AmeriCorps and the Vista program. The Senior Corps is the companion cousin program to that, primarily working at developing seniors and job workmanship and job skills. So 5 hours a week minimum while you're active with us. Any other questions?
What about,
Find the button here. Oh. Are you strictly limited to El Paso County? Because we've got a lot of veterans up in the Park and Teller.
We are for right now. We would love to work with Park and Teller County, and we can provide some good background material and mentoring and coaching to you to develop a similar program.
I'm the post chaplain of Florissant Lake George VFW, and we've got
Many.
20 that are pretty regular members, and there's a bunch of others on our rolls that don't make it in. But we'd like to have some more coverage.
Be in touch with me. I'm easy to find, reflin@silverkey.org, and I'll talk with you. I've got a couple of ideas to share. Yeah, great. Good question. B.
you talked about there being a stipend, but what if the volunteer doesn't need the stipend?
We get this all the time. The stipend is $2.50 an hour, so it's primarily, yes, I know. And let me explain about the stipend. We have no option. We are required to provide a stipend through this federal grant program. It's very interesting. This is actually the first senior corps program of its kind in all of Colorado Springs and El Paso County. So they have regionalized. The Corporation for National Community Service is the largest federal funding grant agency in the U.S. They were statewide coordinators. Just a few months ago, they completely tore it all apart and regionalized everything. So we are in a 7-state region. Fortunately, they are still headquartered at the Denver Federal Center. So that's our key person. And one of the absolute hallmarks of this grant program is a stipend for volunteers to encourage them to really do this as a professional volunteer. So.
Roxanne, just one small question. I'm assuming you're willing to take anyone who's wanting to volunteer, but any special emphasis on getting other vets to actually be a volunteer with the vets?
Thank you. Great question.
Okay.
We prefer veterans and veteran spouses in this program, but we are not limiting our veterans. And volunteers of all ages can certainly come and volunteer for Silver Key. The program requires 55 plus to be able to pay a stipend, and that we take them through the training program. So we're very open to absolutely anyone and of any level of any level. So if we have people of special needs, we could also work with them.
Through your background check process, are you able to query the APS database for Adult Protective Services? I know
Yes.
there's certain requirements about who can check that or not. Usually it revolves around direct care, but I thought maybe with Silver Key you'd be able to pull that as well.
We can, yes. It's a good question. Any other questions?
Yes, the 20 hours of training when?
That's over a period of time. It's beginning now. So if you know of anyone who'd like to get going, we'll get them going immediately. No. It's divided up over a year, and then we add in extra specialized training, 24 hours additional. You get paid during that time to learn, which is wonderful. So we begin with our wonderful orientation program, which includes a full campus tour and lunch in our cafe.
So I also had a question on the background checks. Are you doing the criminal, the driver if they're driving?
Yes.
And the caps
Yes,
on all
and
of them?
yes, and fingerprinting.
And things.
Yeah, national fingerprinting. Yes.
Do you get assigned to a single person that you work with, or do you kind of move around to different?
The idea, it's a great question, and the idea would be at first that you would be matched to one or possibly two individuals, depending upon the volunteer's amount of time they'd like to donate and the needs of the senior veteran. But right now, we are looking at a one-on-one relationship and developing that, and we'll see where that goes. Yeah, great question.
Any other questions at this time? All right, thank you. That was a great presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And our next presentation is with Colorado Springs Fire Department Cares. And thank you all for holding your questions till the end, and we will do that this time also. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I first want to publicly thank Roxanne for getting me around Silver Key yesterday when I got a little lost. So it was you. It was me. I know I saw you. I was like, what are the odds? Anyway, so I am here today to present to you all what the Community and Public Health Division of the Colorado Springs Fire Department is doing to try to assist our senior citizens in Colorado Springs.
And you can do that.
So I wanted to start quickly with the Community Assistance Referral and Education Services, which is CARES. It's designed to work with the super utilizers of the emergency medical system, so for those who are overusing the ED or the fire 911 side. And what we've defined as a super utilizer is 6 or more ED visits or 6 or more 911 calls in 6 months. So how CARES works is we get referrals from both hospital systems and from Fire 911, and we will take in the referral, process it, and then try to get an intake completed for that individual. It is a voluntary program, so they have to consent to work with us. So with that, once they've consented, they're assigned either a behavioral health navigator or a medical navigator, depending on their needs, or if it's a very complex case, they'll be assigned to both. Because we're always out in members of 2 anyway for safety. So we will start to identify what their specific needs are, because everything is, a lot of, especially the complex cases, are very individual in what their needs are, and a lot of addressing social determinants of health or of care. So we're looking at those things and what things that we can get out of their way so that they can get to the appropriate stream of care. Because being in the ED for hours on end or the fire truck, coming to your house is not often the appropriate response. So along with that, which is the meeting I just came from, is our community care planning meeting. So for those individuals that we have that are challenging to the community, we get together as a community to discuss how to assist that person when they're unable or unwilling to do what they need instead of what they want, for lack of a better way of saying that. And so we will come up with plans on how to drive their treatment from the back end. And then up to also putting an individual fire protocol in place, saying that if this person falls within these vital signs and is presenting this way, that they don't need to be transported to the emergency room. They can get there if they want, but the ambulance is not going to take them. And those are for very extreme cases. We only have about 7 active protocols at the moment, but all appropriate for the needs of the person. Everything we do is at home or community based, so we're coming to you. We can occasionally provide transportation, especially if we're trying to get transportation set up for an individual. And referrals can be any age or payer source. We're free to the community. And we don't bill for services. So our CARES goals are 40% reduction in ED or 911 usage, depending on who referred them. And then we will facilitate coordination of care and member advocacy. So we're, yes.
Just a question. Are you doing it on a geographic basis as well? I'm up in Monument, Tri-Lakes area, so are you working with the fire department there, just like in other parts of the area, the region?
So we will work with Colorado Springs Fire Department. However, if the individual is accessing the emergency departments within the Colorado Springs area and get referred to us, then we will work with them. So not necessarily on the fire side, but on the emergency, on the ED side. So we do have members out in Fountain, out in Monument, out in Peyton, things like that, even out to, I think we had one in Callahan at one point. So we will go in those directions. If if that's appropriate. So, and then we provide peer support for chronic conditions. The majority of our peers right now are for substance abuse concerns. We're hoping to branch that out at some point, but at the same time, other services are coming to Colorado Springs that provide peer services, so if it doesn't make sense, we'll just partner with them instead. And then we assist the community in managing complex cases. So we will have the occasion where we have to call the high-intensity patient task force together, which is we pull everyone together, that every community partner that this individual is causing issues with, and figure out a way as a community to come together to have to have the same idea, the same treatment plan for that person. And they don't happen very often, but they.
Can I just give an example? Because over here.
Yes, sorry.
My husband, Joe Farr, was very much a part of CARES getting started with the RICO project. And when I was still at PACE, one of the issues that we had was an individual who couldn't leave her home. She was homebound. She had 8 steps, I believe, to get out of her building, wasn't able to get out, and would call 911 every time she had to go to the store, every time she had to go to the doctor. And she wasn't really inclined to stop doing that because she liked it when the cute firemen would come to help her out of her apartment.
Right.
And it became a real issue because she became so dependent on it that even if it was a struggle to leave the apartment, she got to the point where she just wouldn't even try because it was so much better to have the guys come.
Right.
And so those are the types of situations that was very helpful. And she was a pretty intense case, and I do believe it was a whole group that got together, which was basically saying, okay, she can do this, and we need to say no.
Right.
But everyone involved with her needed to be on the same page. So that's, for me, I think that was like the perfect example of what this program does.
Yeah.
So it eliminates that for everybody, not just on the weight of the phone calls into 911, but specifically for all those agencies.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and that's a perfect example, at least for a community care plan, and those steps that are needed to behaviors arise out of a need, but then often can kind of morph into things that are not meeting that person, that aren't that. Sorry, guys. That aren't addressing that person's needs anymore and have actually become a problem and need to be addressed. Yes, ma'am.
Well, do you have that get resolved, though, because obviously she needs some type of encouragement with her.
I can't remember exactly what the overall community decision was, but a big part of what was happening was she truly, without intending, agencies were enabling the behavior. So it was getting everybody on board so that wasn't happening any longer. But pulling in PACE, pulling in all these other resources, again, they still have to comply and be willing to be a part of some of those decisions. But sometimes if you just call people out on their behavior, it helps. Yes. And it did eliminate a lot of it. It didn't eliminate it completely, but it helped so much more, and it didn't waste all the other resources because the agencies were talking to each other. And that ultimately is one of the ways that it saves so much in frustration, not just financial burden as well, but the frustration too.
Well, even just this morning we had a discussion about an elderly couple that are both having concerns, a lot of it around prescription drug abuse, and realizing by looking at certain things that she was going to leave one provider from one organization to go to another provider at a different organization, and having those two organizations be able to understand that was happening, most likely because that organization was no longer giving her the medications that she wanted. So we're able to, because we have business agreements and MOUs in place with several community partners, we're able to have these discussions more openly because we don't necessarily have the same silos, and our consent is very, very global, which is nice. So, any more questions about the basic? Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Do you have anything written up on this that departments outside of El Paso could use?
Absolutely. I can get something to Melissa, and she can get it out to everybody.
So
Yeah.
I was a 10-year volunteer at Lake George and now on the board, and we had what we called frequent flyers. The ones
Yes. Yes.
At the time they needed something.
Best customers.
Yet you wanted to respond every time they called anyway, because it might be serious.
Absolutely.
But this sort of thing would help a lot.
Yeah. Will do. And so as you can see, and I'm sorry this is not the clearest, but 76% of our members are recorded as Medicaid as their primary insurer. 50% identify as female, 35 is male, and then other. And then we've got our racial and ethnic demographics down there. But if you can see over here, about 14%, actually 19, 20, I can't math, but 24% of our population is 55 or older that we work with through the CARES program alone. And then I don't have 19s yet, it's coming, but for 2018, for those who we were able to move, because we do an intensive navigation, so we do 6 months of intensive navigation. If you meet the 40% reduction, we move you into observation to continue to see if you're able to manage on your own or if something else comes up. If that's the case, we move you back into active navigation. Otherwise, we're just kind of watching your ED usage and your 911 usage. And for those that were in observation or closed at the end of 2018, we had a 70% reduction, and then we're about 71 this year. Then we moved to our homeless outreach pilot, which also we've encountered many seniors while we're out in the field. We were approached in August of 2019 by the CSPD and the city's homeless prevention and resource coordinator to try to develop a pilot for the downtown district to try to address some of this overutilization of the PD in that area. And so what we kind of developed was, because we're using our own financial resources, we were only able to provide 2 days a week to be out in the field, but we're out Mondays and Fridays in that area to find the individuals that were identified on the high needs utilizer list from the PD. We had to get out and meet the whole community. So we're out there and we're checking on everybody on a weekly basis while working with those individuals that the PD has asked us to work with. And to date, we've had 1,140 encounters with those experiencing homelessness. Because we don't ask specific demographic information, I could give you an estimate at some point of who we assume is in the elderly population, but I wouldn't know for sure yet. But we're hoping when we move into programming that we'll be able to do that more for those that will actually consent to work with us. For those that were on the original list, 5 have moved into inactive because they've either relocated to another location or we just were never able to find them and they haven't had any activity. And then 8 didn't pick up any new citations from October to December. We're still working with them. We're still tracking them, and especially if we've built a relationship with them, we're still helping them. But it's just, one of those, they're not causing an issue for the PD currently. And we were able, I think I didn't put this on here, but we were able to secure funding for 2020 to expand out to 5 days a week. So I'll be hiring 2 behavioral health clinicians and 2 paramedics to be out 5 days a week in the downtown area. And so with that, we're going to move not only from dealing with the high needs utilizers from the PD, but also anyone in the community that that is willing to consent to work with us that we feel needs that extra assistance. Because as we're out there, we can kind of see declines in presentation and things like that to make sure that people are getting the help they need. We may not be able to get them housing, though we'll try, but we are able to at least try to improve their quality of life. Any questions on that? Okay. So lastly, we have the Aging in Place program, which is a big reason why I'm here. But through my time working with CARES, I started to recognize that a lot of people that were getting referred or even going through the service calls, which there were 1,500 service calls in 6 months from, I think it was January to July that I was looking last year, and the majority of them were lift assists. So I started to realize that, and a lot of it stemmed off from an assist that we did out in Fountain Fire by their request for a gentleman who was elderly and bariatric, who every time he needed to go somewhere would have to get an ambulance to take him, to the point where a brand new firefighter, 25 years old, tore his rotator cuff and was no longer going to be able to be a firefighter. So it's that idea of lift assists can be dangerous for all involved and can cause injury. So if we can get in there sooner than the CARES criteria of 6 months, then we can hopefully try to eliminate or at least alleviate the issues of people getting hurt on both sides. So I did a very soft launch back in January so that we could apply for a grant in July, and we received funding for that this year, up through July of this year, to at least start looking at all of this. Wrong button, sorry. So we receive all of our referrals from the fire department. We started with 8 that we kind of looked at the Innovations in Aging's report and the El Paso County kind of population demographics report, and decided we would target those first because I didn't want to blow things up for us to the point where we weren't going to be able to help the way we wanted to. But we were able to expand out to all 22 stations in January of 2020. So, and then it's 3 calls in 3 months. So, and the 3 months is just the cutoff. It could be 3 calls in a week. It doesn't really matter. It's just more of how recent it is. Because oftentimes, if it was 3 calls back in November and we try to go and they may have been placed already, or the issue's been managed within their families, things like that, so we're not needed and it's not necessary for us to go out there. And then just like with CARES, we complete intake and consent. And the model after that is very similar to CARES, where we assign navigation, and navigation gets in there and figures out what needs to happen. Sorry. So to date, we've had 60 referrals, 37 have consented. It's our highest consenting program, which I think speaks to a need for that population. And then we give the self-sufficiency matrix, which is one of the assessments that Silver Key does, because we've worked pretty closely with the senior outreach services to figure out which assessments can we give ahead of time, so that when we turn it over to case management, we're not being redundant, that the individual doesn't have to answer the same questions all over again. So we try to provide that information. And with the self-sufficiency matrix, that is hard to say. We've had I didn't finish that. We've had a 30% improvement from the initial assessment, and then we'd go back in and do a 6-month assessment. Sorry, I did that kind of last minute last night. 12 members have passed away, and although some of that is to be expected, the one thing for at least 4 cases, if we hadn't have gotten involved, it's possible that person could have passed away and not been found for a while because they didn't have any family involved. So with us checking up on them on a regular basis, we are able, or getting them into a higher level of care because it was needed almost on an emergency level, and have them pass away at a facility instead of at home by themselves. 4 have been placed in facilities either temporary or permanently. And we've been able to increase our community partnerships and collaborations through app. And yeah, we added all stations to the pilot. So this is just a list of some of the community partners that we're able to work with. And some of these cross-populate, but I just kind of wanted to break it out by program. But through the initial working with CARES has allowed us to build even more substantial relationships within the community. And honestly, we can't do our job at all without the help of everyone in this community, because it is definitely a community effort. We're just the shepherd of the process for a lot of people that have a difficult time navigating the health system. So, just threw this in here. And here's some program recognitions that we've had over the past 5 years. So, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So, do welfare checks play into anything?
So I actually had a conversation with Chuck, one of the detectives at CSPD, about if there's a way for them to tag who might have been an elderly person for a welfare check, because I've been starting to have these conversations more and more that the PD takes the brunt a lot, especially for those that have dementia that are aging in place and starting to struggle with paranoia and things like that, and calling because they believe that things are happening that may not actually be happening. We've assisted with a couple cases with them that were really high intensity, but the way that their system is structured and their data is structured, there's not a way to grab that right now because they don't always get birth dates and things like that. But I am working on it. But that's a very good question.
Just as an example, I had someone I was working with through our church that she was not able to lift her husband after he had fallen a couple of times. And I just was so surprised and amazed when people would go, oh, well, I just call 911 if I need help getting him, lifted up. I'm like, okay, there's a better way to approach this, but just the mindset, and I know that when a caregiver gets in a situation where they're doing the best that they can, but ultimately it shouldn't be that just a blasé an answer that's what I do. So I think, especially in the aging in place, there's so many people who are doing a great job. I mean, they're being great caregivers, but there's got to be a better answer and there's a better solution. And so I think, and I didn't know you were doing that, or I would have made that suggestion. He has passed away now, so it would have been one of those situations. But oftentimes I know that they feel like their back is up against the wall. They don't really have any other options. And so this is great to know that you guys are doing this now. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned transportation and your referrals out to the community. Do you have who you need on your referral list for transportation? Because you have like 4 HSPs here in town that can help you with that.
I believe we have most of them, but I will look at it, and I'm pretty sure we have Invita on there.
Okay. Well, I noticed Silver Key, maybe you're
Yes.
getting your need met already, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that you're aware that there are HSPs there ready to help.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest concerns that we've been running into is getting groceries to someone's house because they're not able to leave the house. That's even an issue at Greenway Flats for several of our elderly individuals who don't have the funding to transport themselves somewhere, and then they charge a delivery fee to deliver the groceries. So I'm starting to try to work through all of that and find out a way to help. So if anybody has any ideas, please let me know.
And then you mentioned the shortage of lift-assisted vehicles. Is some of this due to weight? Because I know most of this with our lift-assisted vehicles, depending on the client, they can exceed the weight limit on our lifts.
For
which is
that-
why they have to go on ambulances.
Right, for that gentleman, if the Fountain gentleman, they just didn't have those resources down there, so the fire department would have to help get them into the AMR vehicle. But a lot of times, it's not that they need to go somewhere, they've just fallen and need someone to help get them up off the floor or wherever they got stuck.
Well, please know there are a number of us that are ready and willing to help and be partners with you.
Appreciate that, yes. Any help? Yes?
Yeah, and on for the food, for the grocery shopping, that type of thing, I think Silver Key would be able to have some conversation to help.
Thank you, Jason, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, this has been a great presentation.
Thank you guys
very
for your
much.
time, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to our next item, which is membership. Wendy?
Yes. So there are a few things that we have going on. I'll actually save the new addition for later on, which is on action item. But for those of us who have been on the council for a while, you may notice that we have a repeat customer sitting here next to me. And for those who weren't aware, Phyllis decided that she was going to go gallivant all over for the holidays, and so she wasn't here for our party. And so, and she said, well, I keep getting the emails, so I just figured I'd show up. So, I don't know that I could properly express the impact that this woman has had.
on the Eastern Plains. Dave, would you like to just stand up and give an applause there? Is he still here? Yeah, he's so in fact, I don't know if you noticed, but when he announced the comment about Highway 94, he directly looked at her like, see, Phyllis, I got it done. Because that poor guy has had to answer to her for the last 3 years, probably, yeah. Just 2 years for you. We've had her for 6. So, I have known this lady a very, very long time, and it took me many years to finally twist her arm to being willing to consent to serving and to being a part of this. And I cannot tell you how proud I am of how she has served and her willingness. And the biggest problem I have now, being membership chair and for our committee, is finding someone who could possibly replace her. So, Phyllis, stand up. Melissa, do you have your camera or something that will take a picture? And we'll get Jody over here, too. Yeah, take your thing out. Okay. Yeah, there. Well, we'll move this out of the way. So, and then, yeah, you should be in it. Oh. Yeah, do we want to be over here by the pretty sign? Pretty sign. The pretty new decal. Yeah.
That's going to be front page news.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, put it in the Ranchland News, right?
I may break his camera.
No.
Yeah, get in there. We'll get all of it. Make this official.
Thank you.
Wendy, do we have any other updates for membership right now?
Other than we've got several people who we are excited about who are potentially interested. But that doesn't mean that we're not always looking for more people, particularly anybody who might be on the Eastern Plains. So Dave, if there's anybody that you're picking up on those routes who look like they are involved and interested, yeah. Because part of the aspect of the council is truly trying to cover all the geographic areas. And I can honestly say in my almost 13 years now of being involved with this organization, I can sit now, we have the current best coverage for Park County and Teller County that I think we've ever had. And so that part we're doing great on, but now I think as far as making sure that we're covered on the southern part of El Paso County is still something I'd like to focus on, as well as, again, back on Eastern Plains. So if there's ever anyone that you know of, please send them to myself or to Melissa, and then I'll get that sent out to the rest of our committee for membership. So I think for now, that's good.
Great, thank you. And now Jen, for SRS committee.
We'll be meeting in March, June, September, and December going forward. So if you have not contacted me yet and you're interested to participate in the study and review subcommittee, please let me know. But we'll be getting those started and going quarterly. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. And it is very important that we have involvement from the group in these subcommittees because they do a lot of background work that helps us when we come together. So speak to Jen, Jody, somebody. All right. Thank you. And now our AAA director's report. Jody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're doing a great job, by the way. Got a thumbs up from our former. So a couple of items I just wanted to bring up. You may be hearing this, you may be not, but the complete census committees are getting together across all of our 3-county region, and some are grant funded specifically and have a very specific organization structure. Some are recruiting volunteers to become some of those census takers to help with the count. This count is crucial on a variety of reasons, primarily for the federal funding. widespread for every community that they will receive from the feds and the state, regardless of the services, but this is where DHS will know what their funding formula might look like. But all of those providing services to the community will be affected. And so the number one encouragement that I would give you is that if you are aware of or involved with the census, the complete census count committees within your region, is to also share that information with those that you provide services to, those that you know. It will be a tiered approach, and so beginning around March 1, letters will be sent. And the challenge is that those letters from the federal government for the census count will go to actual home addresses. So if in your area, which a lot of our rural areas are only served by P.O. boxes, they will not receive a letter at their home. And so it's going to be very important that they are proactive in making sure that they get themselves counted. Now, the complete count committees are going to be putting together count parties and special events to where we can encourage those hard-to-count individuals to come in and be counted. But it really is going to be a true team effort, as it were, to make sure that we are counting accurately. Now, because the Older Americans Act and the Older Coloradans Act are all based on our population census, right now our current funding formula is based on the census from 2010. Once we have the new census, our funding formula will probably change, and we hope for the better. We hope to see increases, but all of that will be affected. So it's just so important that this is going on. We know in Park County, one of our representatives from Park County, along with Joyce and Chris Larson, have been attending some meetings there. The Seniors Alliance of Platte Canyon received a grant to help with counts in their area, which is great for Park County. We had applied, the AAA had applied back in the fall for a grant. It was denied. They felt that there were enough census work going on, but then lo and behold, out of the blue, we received a donation from an organization who had seen our application and liked what they saw. And so we received a donation to do that work. And so we will be creating some of those programs. If you're interested in knowing more or would like to be involved, I would ask that you work with Melissa, as she'll be heading that up under her programs area. So please, please, please be involved. It affects every age group, not just seniors, not just those who need direct services through our county or state agencies. So it is truly a team effort. The other thing is that recently we heard from the Sunshine Home Shares organization. As you know, we helped procure a grant to bring them into the city, or El Paso County primarily, to start with for the year. And they are going gangbusters already. They have a list of people interested in providing their home, and they have a list of people who have expressed interest in being those home sharers. And so we're really looking forward to hearing more good things. Soon they will have their staff member on board. They have begun the hiring process, so they've already gone through all the interviews. They've offered a position, and so we're just waiting to hear how that rolls out. So a lot of good things happening around the area. That's all I have for now. I want to make sure that all of you as RAC members and all of you as public and our providers know that I'm as easy as an email away. If you're in the building, come knocking. I tell my staff my door's open unless it's not. So you are always welcome to reach out to me. So anyway, just wanted to provide those two updates. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, just a brief chair report. Dave was in charge for December, And so I started in January 2nd, having a meeting with Jody, getting some information. Got to meet Andy. Had a great meeting with Dave and B, and a lot of good transition information, and a lot of support from them. I've been to the PPACG board meeting, been to the TRS meeting, all the alphabet soup that I can find, and had a pre-meeting meeting this morning. So I feel like I'm getting educated from everybody and feeling pretty comfortable with this. So I really don't have anything to add because everything was pretty well covered by everybody else from the last meeting. So I, too, have an email address and getting some business cards made, and I'm available by phone or email. And anything that you have information on. I know you guys don't have problems with emails because I've gotten a gazillion of them this month. So, but that's pretty much what I have to share right now. So, thank you. And now we go on to our action items. Wendy has an item for membership.
So one of the things that I've been very pleased to hear, we oftentimes have people who have been on the council and then for one reason or not have either finished their term and then, or other reasons, and then can come back.
Wendy, can you use your mic, please?
Oh, I thought I was
Just
doing
just
so
a
good.
yeah, just a reminder, and this is for our public as well. We record all of these, so if you turn that way and look at the ceiling, you'll see the video camera at the top. So this isn't really about projection to the rest of the room. This is about making sure that your comments and discussions are recorded properly for that. And next month you could go on and watch yourself again online.
Yay. So one of the things I do like about returning members is the historical knowledge that they have. But also their passion, because if they're coming back and they're saying, hey, I would like to be a part of this again, that tells me that what they've done before and what they would enjoy being involved with in the future is pretty powerful. And it happens frequently enough that I think says good things about who we are and what we're doing. So that's a good thing. So one of those people is Joe Ruth. So if those, yeah, it's a superstar, Joe Ruth. One of the things that people may not know about Joe, and the only reason I know this is because we've now known each other. We've crossed paths as members for many years. She actually was very much a part of Bethel Nursing School. And her background in the medical as well as the nursing and the historical aspects of Colorado Springs and the region is really, really, I think, helpful in understanding how the health systems are working and how they're not working well. So that's very helpful. I do have a copy of her application, so even though she's been here before, even with those returning people, we still have they have to have an application filled out. So I will pass these around. However, I will say that I didn't feel the need to re-interview her. Hopefully everyone else is okay with that. And so I would like to propose that we accept the application of Joanne Ruth as a new member for our Regional Advisory Council, which would take effect immediately. So,
do we have a second for that? Any discussion?
It was Dave second.
Dave second, yes. Okay. So we'll take a vote.
All in favor?
Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So it's carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item is B will be giving a presentation on the TRS recommendations.
Okay. The TRS committee met on January 15th to recommend where to allocate $734,781.35. By the way, if any members need a copy of that, you all received it in the in your email as an attachment, but if any members need that, we have that. So we had over $734,000 to allocate. However, the requests totaled $941,110.79. So, of course, that meant we couldn't meet all the requests. And so we met to evaluate the proposals. We started with an estimate of being able to meet about 75% of the proposals, and then we went on to look at the specific needs of each of the programs and our priorities, such as transit, food, and other issues that were, or other criteria that were taken into account included such things as current funding usage rates. For newer members, that refers to the notion of how are they using the money right now, each month, how much is being spent. And it gives us some sense of their capacity. And then also compliance with contractual processes such as following the rules of the road, I guess, basically. And we were able then to recommend closer to 80% of the requests. So you have in your hands then the specific requests per our specific allotment. You'll see that just in terms of the columns on that report, you have the name of the organization, the particular type of program they're asking funding for, their request, and then our recommendation with a note related to why it was approved. So I am proposing then that the attached final TRS recommendations be approved by the RAC.
I'm sorry, but we're not taking questions from the public right now. So this is a proposal. Do I have a second?
Second. Before that, I need to mention a potential conflict of interest that I have related to this. My mother does bookkeeping for the Teller Senior Coalition, so I'm not sure if I'm able to participate in this vote or not.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, for anything that's voted, just that declaration is all we need. You may still participate in the vote, but the declaration is what is crucial to this vote. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, so we have the motion and we have a second. Do we have any discussion from the members? Yes, Joyce.
I need to object to the fact that the Park County Senior Coalition was given no carryover funds. This is not related to the Park County Senior Coalition, but to the seniors of Park County that have been slighted. The fact of the matter is, it's not a vote against the Park County Senior Coalition, but against the seniors of Park County. And it's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think mostly, from what I understand, Park County has been paperwork, just administrative paperwork is what's been kept us from getting anything.
Okay. Yes, Dave.
I've got some history on this, both from sitting up there and just being a member for a number of years. I think the real challenge is that the members of the TRS, and I think every member as a council member, is very, very focused on seniors, getting services to seniors. Having said that, I think one of the key things that has to be kept in mind is that there are approaches to do this, there are policies, there are procedures, and that it's not just an administrivia thing. It really is fundamental to efficiency and effectiveness in getting those services delivered. The challenge has been, and continues, that the staff of the AAA has invested an inordinate amount of time and effort, year after year, month after month, attempting to ensure that the established procedures for every one of the providers that's here today sitting in the audience, as well as the other ones that are not here, that those policies and procedures that are established contractually are followed. So I think that's an important consideration. I think that as a member of the TRS in this meeting that we just had, I think Bea would be happy to endorse that, so would Chris as the chair if she were here. Fundamentally, the challenge has been we're all focused on delivering services effectively to each and every senior that is deserving of them. The organization, the provider that has that responsibility, not only has the responsibility to deliver those services, but they have a responsibility contractually with the AAA to follow the rules. And I think that's an important consideration. I'll just leave it at that. I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments that somebody else has on that.
Yes, Joyce.
I should say that I think the fact of the matter is it wasn't done. Because the fact of the matter is there's a big goose egg beside Park County Senior Coalition. That means that the seniors aren't being served.
I have to say, I don't understand what you're saying, Joyce. What is the goose egg? What is it that's not being done?
There's no funding for carryover funds for Park County Senior Coalition, which means there's no money to spend on the seniors of Park County.
Okay.
Let me just clarify that. There is money to be spent. It is not being spent, or either it is a record of that is there. The organization is not producing the record to ask for a reimbursement for those funds.
Do we have any other discussion from the members? All right. It's time to vote. Okay. Turn on your microphone, please.
If that paperwork was produced, is this the final done? They've had time and we don't have the documentation needed, and so now we have to move on?
I can answer part of that, Lucy. At the time that the TRS met and putting together the paperwork for the TRS, Park County Senior Coalition was behind in their billings. We did run percentage spent reports so that we could provide that information to the TRS so that they could make that decision knowing what the status was of the monies that were already provided. At the time that report was run, we show that Park County Senior Coalition had only spent 18.37% of the monies available and in one area, and 4.81% in another area, for a total of 35.5%. At that point, there should have been over 40% spent in all areas, and so that was part of the TRS decision-making. We do want to make it clear, though, that there is a part, the chair of the TRS is a Park County member, and so was part of these discussions. There are concerns from the staff, and so we are working on those. But these decisions were fully made with as much information as possible, with usage, with historical information, and then several of the TRS members have sat in the TRS process. In fact, 3 of the 4 members who were participated had sat in the process before.
So one quick question, and those who haven't been on the TRS in the past, sometimes there are situations where not everybody is in agreement. I'm just curious, in this situation with these decisions, which I'm going to assume were not easy, this was not an easy decision, was there a consensus of those members that were a part of this? Was it pretty much an overall, everyone had was in the same agreement?
As you can imagine, none of us wanted to go in this direction. We want these dollars to go out to Park County. But yes, there was consensus.
Okay.
Yes, Dave.
I'll just, if I can just circle back to the comment I made about the contract. Fundamentally, that's how I see this, okay? What has happened over the quite a few number of years is the contract terms, the responsibilities on the part of the provider have not been met. And I was a very strong voice at the last meeting and privately to say that, okay, contractually, this is an issue that is not going to get resolved at the TRS level, nor even at the RAC level. Fundamentally, it's a contractual responsibility between the AAA or PPACG and Park County service provider. That's where the resolution of this resolves or resides. It's been ongoing and has not been fixed. We try to paper it over. We try to say, okay, maybe if they work harder, maybe it'll be better next time. The staff is paying a tremendous price, wear and tear on their psyche and in their efforts, trying to resolve the issue. Fundamentally, from Dave's perspective, I'm saying it's contractual and it needs to be addressed at that level.
Okay, and one other point that I didn't make before is we did get provisional approval from the Board of Directors to disperse this money. So what we say today is the final vote on this. So do we have any other discussion, any other questions? Marilyn? It's not.
I would just like to confirm what Davis said, because I wasn't here for a year, but for the 2 years previous to that, I was on the TRS. And it was paperwork not turned in on time. There was a continual, repeated pattern of not providing what was asked for in a timely manner.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the members? Okay. We have come to a point to vote on this. So I'm asking now for a vote. All in favor of approving the motion as it's been presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
And carried with 1 opposition. Thank you.
1 or 2?
Was there 2? 2. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, Bill. All right. So now we move on to our discussion items. Yes, Jody.
With this vote, like Dixie mentioned, with this vote, and because we received a conditional vote from the Board of Directors, letters will be sent out within the next couple of days to confirm these allocations for the carryover funding. This also means that our current providers may begin using these funds February 1. So those will be available to you. For those, I don't think we have anyone in the room who requested capital expenses, but those who requested capital expenses, as you saw earlier in the notations, we still have a couple levels of additional vote above us for those capital expenses. And so if something should change, an update would be provided to this. I do also want to make note, for those of you who are in the room who are also providers, and to the RAC board as well, we will be reviewing all of the funding that has been allocated between original and carryover in March, so that we can make sure that all funding is being used appropriately and is allocated for use by the end of June. Very important to note that the state is changing our carryover process and cap amount, which means that if we do not use an appropriate amount of carryover and we leave that on the table, less will come to the region next year and in future years. So that is very important. It's a big reason why this information was used in the allocation procedures and will be used next year in the full allocation for July 1 as well. So thank you very much to everyone for this process. It was very challenging. I know that the TRS members do not take this role lightly, and there was a consensus vote, just to confirm. Thank you.
Okay, now we are open to discussion items and announcements from the members. Anything? Yes, Dave.
I'm very reluctant to speak, but I guess I'll do it anyway. So I think when I was on the other side up there, I had you heard me talk a little bit about my focus on seniors and wildfire preparedness, emergency preparedness, those types of things. So I just wanted to say that I'm continuing in that. Since I'm not up there, I have a little bit more time to think about and perhaps work on it. I had a meeting this morning with upstairs here with PPACG, Office of Geospatial Information, GIS technology, if you will, talking about the need to get some sort of a broader, I'll say, front range type picture so that you can see emergency access, emergency preparedness, safety zones, where are the assets, where are the resources, and the rest of it. I'm approaching it from a HOA perspective. But I'm trying to say, okay, I need to build and work with developing a coalition of the willing. I've got an example of somebody else another HOA that's done a tremendous job laying out their huge area. This is in La Plata County, and it shows all the roads, all the emergency routes, where the homes are, where they can marshal if something happens, a whole bunch of different things. I'm saying from my little perspective in an HOA in the northern end of El Paso County, it'd be great for us, but it really needs to be much bigger than that. So as Dave goes forward, Dave's going to be working with Colorado Springs Fire Department probably, because they do geospatial stuff, with the El Paso County, Colorado Springs Emergency Management Office, which has just recently merged, as well as with the local fire department up there. I'm also working with the U.S. Forest Service and the Colorado Springs Forest Service. So the point of it is not to say how wonderful Dave is doing, just saying it's a starting point to build a coalition, to build towards getting a broader picture, I guess, available to not only the public, but also across the organizations. Pull people together, organizations and capabilities that already exist, and say, hey, we can probably solve this relatively easy or more easily if we work together. It's not going to happen immediately. It's going to be a long-term thing, but I just want to throw it out there. So as people are going out and talking to providers in the areas that where you live, where you work, where you have recreation and the rest of it, please keep that in mind, and please use me as a resource towards working towards improved safety, security for seniors in their homes.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to put a comment on that, and then I'll get your question.
Okay, it's on. Park County has coordinated all the fire districts and emergency into one overall umbrella group to coordinate things similar to that. So.
I was at the meeting that Chris organized up in Bailey. I was at that meeting.
No, this is separate through the
fire department's
emergency.
Okay, I'll get with them. Thank you.
Emergency management group.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Somebody, Phyllis.
I want to say, when and if anybody decides to do the east out here, which it's going to be very hard to find. They do work with the fire departments, clear to the county lines, on all of it, which we have to do because, and Dave will tell you, with him starting, with taking people in and stuff, it's a tough area. The people out there are, I was born here, I was raised here, and I'm going to stay here, period. And no matter what you do, that's the way they look at it. And like I say, it's probably one of the tougher areas because it is all-out county. But it is changing very quickly because of the Space Center out there. And they're going to have to double up on everything because of what they're going to put out there. There's a lot of houses.
Is that Schreiber, right?
Yes.
Is it Schreiber?
Yeah. But it is definitely going to be out there.
Yeah,
So as soon as they get the water and all that thing sorted out, and that'll be through government, because the individuals that come in there and bought the land to build all these houses and all this stuff, it cannot be individual, it has to be government.
It has to be a cooperation. And
Yes.
going back to what Dave said and Bill and everybody, is education is one of the key things in all of these programs. We've got to educate ourselves and the public. So it's very important. Fire preparedness, I mean, it's just something that we have to live with and deal with. So calendar of events and the next meeting. Anybody have any announcements?
I actually just had a question. I know that we talked at our last meeting about the senior day at the Capitol is going to be different than it's been before. I can't remember what the date of that was going to be. Do you remember, Melissa? Do you remember when that?
No.
It was usually in March. I thought it was March. Yeah, I just wanted, just something to put on our radars again so that we're prepared,
Right.
even though it's another month and a half out.
Colorado Senior Lobby has decided to split out how they do their event, that singular event. One of those is here, I believe, next week at the end of the month. It's more of a lobbying 101 type of thing, where they'll give a tour of the Capitol and do some training on how to be a citizen lobbyist. And then there will be a more similar to past year's Senior Day at the lobby, Senior Day at the Capitol, probably March or May timeframe. We can look that up and provide a distribution.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, and I knew that was something we need to be reminded of, since next month we're going to have the provider fair. It might not be rise to the top as much, so I just wanted to double check. So I will check my own email.
Great.
So I can, the Capitol Affair happens January 27th, which is kind of the day to tour and kind of visit over there, spend the day learning about aging issues and citizen advocacy.
Melissa, that's here?
No, that's up in Denver.
That is in Denver, okay.
And then, that's not it. That's not Senior Day at the Capitol, let's see if April 24th.
Okay.
Okay, so just to split that out so we can have that on mic.
That's not right.
Okay.
Nope, not right. That's still their last year's event.
Okay, so we'll take a look at that a little deeper. We'll go ahead and make sure that that is on the calendar of events in the agenda for next month, despite having that, because we will have we will have the business meeting on the front end of the provider fair as usual. We'll probably circle up here in the middle like we usually do, but we'll make sure that we have the dates and the description. Maybe, Melissa, they might have some flyers or something that we could track down. So we'll make sure we get more information for you.
Thanks.
Yes, Dave.
One other note, I just checked my calendar. On the 29th, which is next Wednesday, there's a community conversation, and I don't recall the specifics. I put it on my calendar. I'm going to go to it. Has to do with seniors. It's been huge ads in the Gazette over the last 2 or 3 days, and it's talking about senior issues affecting aging in place, those types of things. And it's at the Pikes Peak Center, 190 South Cascade. That's at 6 p.m. on the 29th. I don't have anything more than that, but that really is something that we should be aware of and hopefully participate in. Dave, do you know anything more about that? Okay, we'll forgive you this time.
Dude, pay attention.
Okay.
Just a reminder that the calendar's moved to the 4th Thursday.
Oh, another reminder is the calendar has been moved to the fourth Thursday and not the last Thursday of each month. And we do start at 10, and every month we will have an executive committee meeting at 9 prior to the RAC meeting. So just those reminders. And so if there's not anything else, then we will call this adjourned. Thank you. Ready for lunch? Hi. I have not met you. I would like to get up to Park County. In fact, I intend to do that sometimes. Yes.
Thank you.